Lethal Theatre by Susannah Nevison. If I tell you my body is a mausoleum and the needle houses ghosts, then you should know I know them all by name. That ether is lithium, is lethe, is forgetfulness, is how I remember the bend in the river where my body turns sharply, where the ghost of condemned men cannot cross, is where the needle points the way home across the river, though the men cannot cross, though I return every time. If I tell you, there are hands that bring me back, then you should know there are hands that hold men down. If I tell you, there are men always drowning in me, that the bend in the river is the place I first wake into the world, this is how a man dies. This is how we kill him. Before the poem itself, Susannah quotes two experts, just to give us an idea about lethal injection and the misconception associated that this is a painless experience. One of the quotes comes from Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Lethal injection typically depends on a 3-drug cocktail, a sedative or anesthetic, a paralyzing agent, and a drug that stops the heart. Execution absent on adequate sedative thus produces a nightmarish death. The condemned prisoner is conscious, but entirely paralyzed, unable to move or scream his agony as he suffers what may well be the chemical equivalent of being burned at the stake. Now, just imagine this. Try to picture being burned at the stake. When it happened, why it happened. Try to have that image before your eyes. And then write anything down, your reactions, whatever those may be. Try, something without any constraints whatsoever. A few reactions when you see the image of people being burned at the stake. I have this feeling that we would use verbs in past tense, and we would argue that humans didn't know any better, and that way of killing another human does not happen anymore. We have learned from our erroneous ways of thinking and acting, etc., etc. And then we will read a poem such as Lethal Theatre, and the author has done a lot of research, not for the poem itself, but for the entire collection, which I highly recommend. If you go online to do a little bit more research about lethal injection, you will discover debates. Some go as far as to suggest, well, what would we prefer? That these condemned humans be executed via the firing squad or the electric chair or by hanging. And it appears that the lethal injection is, at the moment, the least cruel of all the other 3 that I mentioned before. It's 2020. The image of someone being burned at the stake is something, I could be wrong, but at least for me, it's something that I would say, oh, as long as it happened, and it's like in a document, in a history textbook, but it happened. Is something I cannot change. Therefore, it is there. It is a wake-up call, so we make sure we do not torture anyone before their death. If you go online and research, currently there are 29 states in the United States of America where execution by lethal injection is legal. If you factor in that currently there are a little bit over 2,000 condemned humans on death row, and again, if you remember, this is 2020, where we want the police to be defunded, where we want to rehabilitate the inmates, where we want to create a society where we are not afraid of the other. Then when you factor all this in, whatever your position is in regard to lethal injection, my other question for you is, how can we stop the killing of other humans? Thank you.